Welcome to my Emerging Technologies video on the Tempest next generation aircraft. So what is Tempest? Well, it is designed as a replacement for the RAF Typhoon, which note is still a recent aircraft that's come into service, and other RAF aircraft. Some of the UK's biggest technology defence manufacturers have come together, such as BAE Systems and Leonardo and Rolls-Royce, and they are producing a state-of-the-art combat aircraft. This aircraft is highly configurable and extremely advanced, and is probably unlike any aircraft that's ever been developed. Now, we can't show you any video of it flying because it doesn't exist as such, so we'll have to make do with web links and chat basically. So what sort of technologies does it have, and what's this got to do with our emerging technologies topic? Well, here are 5 different technologies, and some of these are generic to all sorts of different fields of human endeavour, particularly digital twinning, virtual and augmented reality, and perhaps the engines as well. But all of the technology will probably find other purposes in the future after the aircraft is developed to make life better. Now, a point that's worth making is I don't know what your views are on the defence industry and things like that, and sometimes people will have different views about it, but it isn't unusual for the defence industry to be leading the way in new technology. The biggest world-changing example of that was, of course, the internet itself, and although some university academics were extremely interested in the idea of sharing data across computers, the main driver for what became the internet was the United States military, and they put up a lot of the money to actually fund this thing. So let's not be surprised when we find defence industries leading the way in new technology, and often that technology is technology that we all end up using one way or another for, say, peaceful means. So first of all is this example of digital twinning. This phrase is an emerging technology, and it can mean quite a lot of things. If you follow the link that comes up later, you will see that in the Tempest program, digital twinning means creating non-real world interpretations of different parts of the aircraft, such as its airframe and things like that, and subjecting that to testing. It's also, very importantly, the digital twin idea is to enable things to be 3D printed. So they've made a smaller scale version of the aircraft, its main shape, from 3D printed parts based upon this idea of digital twinning, and then they've put that through a wind tunnel. So yes, they've created a real world product out of these digital twins, but this will be perhaps one of the first engineering products where a lot of the pieces that are finally put together to make it actually exist in highly detailed digital formats before they are even prototyped. So that is the concept of digital twinning, and that can be used throughout various industries. The advantages are it can cut down enormously on development time, fault finding, and things like that without having to do long and expensive real world testing. You still have to test it, but this speeds up the process. So that's digital twinning. The Tempest will feature a virtual and augmented reality, and that will be centered around the pilot's helmet. So this type of helmet already exists in a sort of primitive form in the RAF Typhoon aircraft. But in the Tempest, there will be a full VR AR helmet that will do many amazing things, such as it will sort of paint cockpit information panels onto a flat surface. Okay, so there will be no real physical information devices in the cockpit. It will all be virtually created through head-up displays and projections and things like that through this headset. The headset will also enable pilots to engage in combat more effectively. For example, by using the radar, which can allow them to see very clearly where other aircraft and threats are in the sky. So it's going to aid the Mark I human eyeball enormously. So that's the augmented reality part of it as well. The aircraft itself, if you read some of the articles, is pretty incredible. It's like a dream of what everybody's wanted from an aeroplane for nearly 100 years. Sometimes it will drop bombs, sometimes it will fire missiles, sometimes it will have guns fitted, sometimes it will have a pilot, and sometimes it won't. How cool is that? How configurable is that? The electronic systems that will be on board will basically be programmable. And so different types of software can be loaded according to the different types of missions and the goal of whatever the aircraft is supposed to do. So this is a highly advanced aircraft. And when you read about it, what I thought was very striking was that the actual aeroplane, or what you call the airframe, the wings and the tail and the cockpit and the wheels and all that, almost seems incidental to the project. And the project really is like a computer project. It's basically, this is like a programmable aircraft, basically. So the airframe, although we would call that hardware, not computer hardware, but aircraft hardware, whilst that will be advanced, lightweight, very strong and highly aerodynamic, that almost seems to be incidental to the hardware inside the aircraft, and by that I mean more computer orientated equipment. So, and all of that equipment, that computer hardware inside of it, will be programmable with different types of software being loaded in according to what the aircraft has to do. So this is going to be a highly configurable aircraft. It also has an amazing radar, which is called the MFRFS, and that has the sort of power to map whole sort of city areas and things like that in seconds. So whereas aircraft radars tend not to give pilots an enormous amount of information, the sensors on this new radar are going to give gigabytes of data in seconds, allowing the pilot to map out the combat zone very clearly and very efficiently. And also, a lot of this processing, it seems, is actually taking place inside the aircraft in real time. So they are going to be some incredibly powerful computer systems on board. Advanced engines. This should interest us because the company behind this is Rolls-Royce, and Rolls-Royce's main branches are in Derby, in the English Midlands, and of course here in Bristol, about half a mile away from the Filton campus. So what are Rolls-Royce thinking of? Well, they're thinking of an advanced engine that runs hotter, much hotter than current engines can, which will increase the fuel efficiency and also, with an eye perhaps to the environment, reduce the CO2 emissions as well. So that's just another example of the sort of technology that is available. Here are the links to all of these different things, and I recommend that you take a look at those. The RAF one, second one down, actually covers most of the aircraft, so that's definitely worth reading completely. And then you've got the BAE Systems one for the futuristic radar, and down here you've got an article about the Rolls-Royce engines and the electrical power system that it will supply to the Tempest. So, emerging technologies, the Tempest advanced futuristic fighter, and no doubt eventually many systems that we will end up using in day-to-day life. Thanks for watching and listening.